Hello and welcome to today's content, which will be on Zazan the Unkillable since he has been released. And yeah, the popularity poll unit is finally out, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people are excited to see what I'll probably maybe say. But yeah, without further ado, let's begin. So his main job is going to be the Undying Fighter. So the main job takeaways. Blade Lash is just going to be his basic attack. As you can see, it's 3 tiles away. It's going to be one of his higher ranged abilities. And then he has the EX upgrade of it, which is going to be Ruinous Lash, which doesn't increase the damage or anything, but it does decrease healing power by 40%. So it's actually pretty nice to have, especially as what I would say the basic attack pretty much ability, because it uses a very little bit amount of AP. After that, we have Hamstringer, which reduces the agility. I would say this is actually kind of like Ruinous Lash, but more for the agility side and not really for decreasing healing. So it's more situational for both of them, depending on which one you would want to use. Now, one of his highest DPS abilities, I would say, is going to be Triple Split. Not only does it gives him 50% defense penetration when he's using it, it also hits 3 times. You can see, however, the range on it is only 2 tiles away, but it's better than just being 1 tile away, so it's not bad. His EX upgrade version of this, however, turns it into a guaranteed critical hit if you hit from behind, and the damage is increased further, so now it mimics a large damage ability and it hits 3 times. So this is insanely strong once he has the EX upgrade for it. So definitely, if you're gonna EX, if you're gonna use him, I will highly say go for the EX. After that, he has Fake Death, which is extremely very good because it gives him re-raise automatically. There's no cast time or anything, it just straight up gives him re-raise. And then we have Backbreaker, which is only 1 tile away, unfortunately. However, it's very, very good because if you do hit them from the back, you have a 50% base chance of disable. Not 25, 50%. This is pretty huge considering that it's not a 25% base chance. 50% is much more significant and better. From his EX ability, he gets the Kingpin Smash, which as you can see is only a straight line. It's not an AoE, and it is 3 tiles away. It does hit very hard, but it doesn't have any other additional effects. Outside of that, his number 1 ranged ability, because it has 4 tiles out, is going to be Undying Rampage, which is his limit break. And not only increases his health by 40% and heals for it, also does a good amount of damage, and that's for 3 turns. So as you can see from his main job alone, he is going to be focused mostly on close combat damage in general. So for the recommended subjobs for Zazan, we have the Undying Fighter, which has low profile, which is kind of like Proclamation from King Mont, but the other way around, so that he doesn't gain hate, he actually loses hate. So he's negative hate, which is better, so that means he won't really be prioritized in being hit. He has Leaping Slash, which is one of his AoE abilities. As you can see, he also leaps to the target, and yeah, it's 3 tiles away and it's AoE, and it has a 35% crit chance. It's pretty good. He doesn't have any crit damage, unfortunately, but that's fine because it's just increasing the crit chance by at least 35% plus is actually just very nice to have for almost like a guaranteed chance of hitting. Not gonna say it's 100%, but it just helps significantly in that RNG matchup. The Ripper is kind of like Killing Axe, however it does not have the Human Killer ability, as well as doesn't have as much of a hard hitting ability as Killing Axe. However, it's still one of his AoE abilities because he doesn't actually have any AoE abilities on his main job. So keep that in mind. His sub job specifically is going to be there for all his other things that he's missing on his main job. Paladin subjob is going to have Taunting Blade, which is huge because he could generate hate and it's a very hard hitting AoE ability, and he has Immortal Spirit, which is crazy because he can have re-raise and Immortal Spirit. This means at minimum, just him alone as a unit, no TMRs, nothing, takes 3 turns fully to kill him for good. Unless you can remove re-raise or Immortal Spirit, he will take at minimum 3 turns to completely down without him getting another turn. So for the Viking subjob, unfortunately he does not have Killing Axe, which is really, really disappointing, but I would agree it's kind of broken if he did, because I mean Immortal Spirit and re-raise is already kind of broken, but if he had Killing Axe with his potential damage, it just would be way too crazy and high. He does get Drain Cyclone, which does heal for a little, it actually does heal a very good amount if you do damage and you get it off. However, he won't really prioritize it too much compared to his other abilities because they're just much more effective in much more circumstances. So for his resistances and passives, which is going to be crazy, but let's talk about it. So resistances to damage types, 15% to slash, that's good. -10 to pierce, unfortunately that's going to be one of his more weaker sides. -5% to strike, which is going to be a little bit more unfortunate. We don't have too many strikers right now though. However, if people watched some of my earlier videos, we do know pierce and strike will be very, very strong in terms of wind units, which I will talk about later in his unit rating. He's 10% to missile, which is pretty good, and 10% to magic, which is very good. And I say very good because being an evasion unit that has positive magic resistance is going to be kind of crazy considering what we're going to be talking about next. Outside of that, his AoE resistance is 0, single target 0, level 120 with his master ability included. He has 0 defense and 0 spirit. While you're thinking like, wow, he's actually kind of squishy, you have to keep in mind he does have immortal spirit, guts, and he has re-raise, and he has a good amount of HP. So just in general, he will be taking a lot of damage, but he will also be hard to kill, ironically. It's kind of weird to say, but there's a balance to it. So resistances to statuses, he has 50% to paralyze, 50% to bind, and 10% to disable, which is insanely good spread because we will have a lot more paralyze coming up. Immobilize is not too often used, but it's not bad, and 10% to disable is better than 0% for sure. Obviously, if disable was at 50%, that'd be insane, like one of the perfect setups almost. But yeah, because it's not too bad of a loss. For his master ability, he's going to have the Mono Earth, which is very nice to have. He has slash resistance penetration by 20% for himself, which is going to be good because the vision card that came out can boost this to 55 total, which is insanely strong. This means it's going to be almost impossible to mitigate a lot of damage from him without going to near 100% slash resistance for builds, like on certain people. So yeah. It's going to be very nice to him. He's going to be almost guaranteed to deal damage. He also increases his evasion rate by 5 for himself, which is not bad. It's not 10 or 15, but 5 is better than nothing, like for sure. Especially because he already has good evasion stat in terms of luck stat. His mobility is 4 move 2 jump as a base unit. He's also 100 cost unfortunately and limited, but 4 move 2 jump is insanely good, especially for him because he wants to get backstabs for additional benefits. For his passives, is actually kind of crazy spread out. I will say Sharpened Blade is going to be one of his best, as well as Evasive Action because it increases attack, defense penetration, agility, and evasion rate. However, if you use them as a tank and not evasion tank, which you can do, I would not really recommend it too much, but you can. He also has a good amount of HP, so Viking Lore and Holy Knight's Protection actually makes him like super high HP if you wanted to. It obviously doesn't reach the same amount as like King Mons, but it does still reach a good amount of HP. For Niche and Flex, I put Unyielding Protection because it only gives 15% missile resistance, which is not bad, but all his other passives just give way much more in comparison. For his reaction abilities, and I'll say this is one of the most broken. If you thought Reflex was broken, I would say Speed Reflex is almost on the same tier of broken. Because if he has a chance when you're hitting him, 30% chance, which is a good proc rate as well. Not 50%, but 30% is pretty significant. He has a chance to give himself haste for 3 turns. Not 1 turn, not 2 turns like Dark Evasion or something that gives you CT and like gives you a faster turn rate. It straight up gives him haste for 3 turns if it procs. Just keep that in mind, that is insanely strong. Fighting Spirit is gonna be not too great, especially because Berserk will also make it so he's not really quote-unquote controllable. He's not gonna be using his abilities, he's just gonna be auto-attacking. Paladin Guard's obviously gonna be good if he's a tank, but even then, I would still use Speed Reflex. I think is just insanely good in that comparison. So Zazan's rating out of 5, and this, I mean, it could be an exaggeration, but I really do believe it, and I'll explain why. For right now, if he's EX'd and 120 fully maxed, I give him a 5 out of 5. The reason why is he is only slash. However, unlike Titus, who does not have any slash resistance penetration, Zazan does, and he has a setup that not only increases his damage, survivability, and slash resistance penetration, he gets up to 55% slash resistance penetration. This is huge because it's extremely hard to get any like benefits from slash resistance unless you're stacking up to unbelievable high amounts, and it would only reduce damage from Zazan by only him for slash. He also has very high defense penetration, so defense builds in general are not going to work against him. He has decent HP, around like 3.5k, which is pretty good. He has high attack. He has extremely high agility. He has 69 agility at level 120. I know people are gonna say nice, but it's seriously really high. He has a base of 0 defense and 0 spirit, but as we said earlier, he does rely on other abilities for his survivability, not his stats itself. He's very capable of doing extremely high damage on single target, like a 250% damage ability, and he has good and decent AoE abilities. Unfortunately, they are all locked to sub jobs. However, it ranges between 165% with 35% crit rate, or 200% from taunting blade. So he definitely can do AoE abilities as long as you set him up correctly. His main job focuses on bursting down single targets, backstabbing, and his own self survivability. He doesn't really do much debuffs for his teammates. He does have status effects for himself, or like healing down, but he doesn't really have like setups for other units outside of chaining for earth if he uses triple split. He's able to not only evade, but he can also generate hate or decrease his hate depending on his subjobs. What this means is that he can even be an evasion tank, so that people will have to focus hitting him, but they won't have favorable chances to hit him. Obviously, Holy and like other 100% hit abilities have a better chance, but as we said earlier, he has a 10% base of magic resistance. You can easily boost that up to 40% with the new vision card that came out, and then a Fenrir vision card. Just like that, boom, 40%. He will take much more significantly less damage there. He doesn't have 100% hit abilities. However, he's just like 2B, where he actually has one of the highest luck stats in the entire game, and this helps significantly in terms of accuracy and evasion. So as he's gonna be in the same situation as 2B. He doesn't have 100% hit abilities. However, he has very high accuracy because of that, because of his own luck stat. His resistances overall are actually very good for most matchups, even being decent against magic, as I said earlier. As long as you build him up properly, and if Santa Claus comes out, then goodbye Yuna is not going to do like almost any damage to him for a very, very long time. If ever, maybe, because he just has too many benefits from it. It's going to be like 2B also. Once they have Santa Claus, it's going to be very hard to kill them with light magic specifically. So he has no physical barrier break. However, his triple split is a 3-hit attack, and it could break almost all physical barriers instantly if he uses it. Keep in mind, 3 turn barriers will not be affected by this, so keep that in mind. Most people only have 3 time barriers, but certain units, kind of like 2B specifically, has 3 turns instead of 3 times. He has insanely high defense penetration. He's capable of 90% when using triple split, rendering all defense builds non-existent. If you wanted to go for like some crazy defense build, like let's go like 70, 70 defense on King Munt or something, that is rendered almost completely useless if Zazan uses triple split on him. Like goodbye, all that defense is just kind of useless. He's able to combine Re-Raise and Immortal Spirit, which is guts, and it has no TMR involvement. This is one of the most craziest setups because it makes his survivability one of the craziest highest in the game. He's basically like an Earth 2B that also has Re-Raise and Immortal Spirit. Just think of that. You're trying to kill 2B, takes you like all these 100% hit abilities, finally kill her, but she gets Re-Raised. Or she gets like procced with Immortal Spirit. So you have to hit them against, but they get another turn as well. So it's very, very hard to down him completely. He really lives up to the name of Unkillable. For future and longevity, I still give him a 5 out of 5. His damage is extremely good, and it's very, very high in general as well, and he has high penetration. This means that he's going to be very reliable to deal damage in almost all circumstances, does not matter. However, he does not have the same amount of quote-unquote damage compared to like 2B. He's actually down like 100 or 200 attack compared to her. However, remember, he has extremely high survivability and has even more penetration compared to the average 2B setup. 2B can, however, get a better setup than him, but just in terms of like more general setups, he does have a little bit less damage compared to 2B, and 2B can get more penetration than him in that comparison. Stats overall gonna be very good for DPS, but he does rely on Re-Raise and Immortal Spirit due to his base of 0 defense and 0 spirit. Keep in mind, while he does have these abilities for survivability, if it does get removed, such as like a magic infuse or like rebel intention, it does significantly reduce his survivability, so you do have to keep that in mind. He's mostly a selfish DPS that doesn't really do much for his team in terms of debuffs, not too much, because he has mostly penetration. However, for himself, in general, also for his team included, he can generate hate, and he can also be an evasion tank at the same time, so he can actually take on multiple roles. As a DPS, I rate very harshly on their rating, especially for future longevity, but he not only has very good long-term abilities because of high penetration, he also has very good utility as a unit. He's kind of like almost like Tidus. However, Tidus does not have the same setup as him in terms of survivability, even though they have differencing like abilities. Zazan's, I believe, is just too much better because he can generate hate, he has insanely high good damage because of the penetration, and he's an evasion tank at the same time. If you do a proper setup, like, he just has so much that he can offer. Even then, if you do somehow down him even as an evasion tank, you still have to work around his re-raise and immortal spirit if he gets those buffs off, so just keep that in mind. It's going to be very hard to deal with him. He has good resistances to paralysis and immobilize, which is very good. Immobilize not too much because we don't really see it often, however it's not bad. He's still susceptible to disable as well because it's at least 10%. He only has 10%. It's better than 0, but it's still 10%. That means he still has a good chance of being disabled from like high disable like limit breaks or like base chance abilities. He still doesn't have 100% hit abilities though, so he will be susceptible to evasion units. It'll be in the same scenario as 2B. They'll have very good accuracy against each other, however it can still miss specifically, so I have to include that because it's not 100% reliable. And we know Gumi set up this like unit release because they know Tifa and 2B is going to be coming out soon, meaning Zazan will be useless compared to them in that scenario. However, because Tifa and 2B cannot remove his guts and re-raise without outside help, he actually can still be an evasion tank against them because Tifa doesn't have the same amount of like accuracy, quote unquote, compared to 2B in terms of their luck stat. So that means 2B has a less chance of hitting him, but she can still hit him pretty much. But just saying, too long didn't read. You do not want to use Zazan into Tifa and 2B once they come out, and Gumi released him right now so that we can use him while we can until Tifa and 2B come out. I will say, however, against them, he is not going to be very good at all, even though he does have some abilities to help him survive. However, against almost all other matchups, his kit is very still useful and good. Due to being evasion viable and even has a higher luck stat than 2B with like the same similar setup, he can actually contest for the highest evasion in the game. Like, it will be very close to 2B, but with his survivability in terms of like guts and re-raise, I just have to reiterate that so many times because it's so important. But he can basically get the same amount as 2B. However, with the average setups, because you're not really going to be using Tetra Esper on him because you're going to be missing like a lot of like damage. If you use like Odin or something, it'll be slightly lower evasion compared to 2B, but he's still very evady. Also, another negative, however, is that all his AoE abilities are going to be on sub-jobs only, which is not too bad, but I still have to say it, like, regardless. His AoE abilities are only going to be on his sub-jobs. Overall, I do think he has very good longevity, so I still have to give him 5 out of 5. If you have the Vizier to spend, I know he's a double cost unit, and I know he's a limited cost unit, but if you can spare the Vizier, I would highly recommend pulling him and like using him while you can before Tifa and 2B come out. And I say that because while Tifa and 2B have like their counter as well, like Sweetheart Valentine Celia will easily dumpster them. Keep in mind, because the game has a lot more units coming out, it's gonna be more like a rock paper scissors type of game. If Zazan was rock, 2B and Tifa specifically would be like paper, but almost all other compositions in general will kind of be like scissors. So I really do believe he's a 5 out of 5 unit. I do not lightly put units at 5 out of 5 without like highly thinking about the situation. Yeah, but I really do. He's a 5 out of 5 unit. He does have his range like issues, however Taunting Blade, Limit Break, and his 4 move help that significantly. I didn't talk about that too much, but I really do believe he has a lot of fixes for his possible faults as a unit. Now for his TMR Chase rating, is going to be the Jacket of the Upstart. I gave it only a 3 out of 5 because I actually don't think it's that good. The reason why is that it's a cloth type armor, so it's not too bad, but it does take up an armor slot. It's 330 HP, which is not high at all. 8 defense is not too bad, and then 15 evade is actually pretty good. However, because it is a cloth armor type, he does not get too much survivability outside of that in terms of like defense and spirit, but it's not bad. That's why I still gave it a 3 out of 5. The active of it on it is going to be Kingpin's Cackle, which increases his earth attack or the user attack by 25 earth, and then earth resistance penetration by 50% for 3 turns. While this may sound crazy, I don't think that is really useful at all, because almost no one really increases their elemental resistance by that high of an amount for it to be useful, and I do believe his other 1 or 2 turns should be better off used on Re-Raise and Immortal Spirit. So I just have to say that specifically. Overall, I do believe Zazan's going to be a 5 out of 5 unit. He may run into AP issues after like 2 or 3 abilities. However, I still believe that his overall setup is just so good. Like, and you can even like sacrifice like Immortal Spirit and or Re-Raise if you want for bells. It really just up to you on his setup. He is so flexible in what he can do as a DPS unit, and he can even tank. So yeah, overall 5 out of 5. Stuff that can work well with Zazan. Obviously, Winter Venera, she needs her EX seriously, but they will actually work very well together, because not only are they both able to become like anti-magic, they can also deal very high unmitigated damage. And I say this because if you're stacking up a lot of defense and slash, you don't have a lot of room for like strike resistance, which Venera does very well in her winter form, but she really needs her EX. So until then, I can't really recommend her until she gets her EX. Catone EX came out as well. Catone also has very high evasion. You can do evasion setup with Catone and Zazan and just run around people and like kind of like dumpstering them. She does have the single target resistance lowering ability, which works amazingly with Zazan, and or she can be a Drain Force build and you guys can stack up HP with the Earth units, because they both are capable of getting a lot more HP in general. Especially for her specifically, Drain Force is going to be one of her best like abilities. It's just so good. Luelle is also an Earth Mage, as we know. She also has a high defense in general. She's just a solid matchup if you need magic damage specifically. Yuna is going to be very good in all situations. Obviously, as a lot of people have been probably finding out, Yuna's magic damage is not going to be as good because a lot of people are running magic tanks. However, she does have full life and another Re-Raise. What this means is that she will probably use Re-Raise on herself, and or if you used it on Zazan himself and you get Re-Raise on him, and then you have Immortal Spirit, then he doesn't need to use a turn on his own Re-Raise, and he can maybe use it on like a R2 in like a Guild War. Additionally, even if he kills Zazan, if Yuna gets a full life on him, that's gonna be another turn that you need required to kill Zazan, and then he's really just keeps coming back every time you kill him. It's gonna be kind of crazy. 4 TMR setups. Dankrit's coat is going to be very good because not only gives him a fat like 500 plus HP, he gets defense from it and light resistance. This helps significantly against specifically Yuna and other light magic comps. Bells are going to be very good, so he can just continuously deal very high, almost unmitigated damage. Santa Claus still not out. If it was out, it'd be one of the most broken items on Zazan, because not only gives him a good amount of HP, gives him very high amount of evasion, gives him also light resistance. As you can see here, it's extremely OP, and now I can see why Gumi has delayed the raid for Santa Claus, because it'd be extremely strong, like crazy strong. Obviously, Ribbon is going to be very good as well because it's one of the best evasion items right now, outside of like Sage's hat. So yeah, overall, Zazan, I do believe he's a very solid unit. I also didn't mention earlier that what I meant to say in the other unit rating screen is that Zazan's going to be extremely strong against a few of the more meta units coming out, such as like Charlotte will get dumpstered by him, and Cloud, who will also get dumpstered by him. So I do have to mention that as much as 2B and Tifa are coming out, it also works the other way around. As I said, rock, paper, scissors, Zazan will completely dumpster any Cloud or Charlotte users. It's no contest, and it's going to be kind of sad because a lot of people are going to pull Cloud specifically because of Final Fantasy VII. And I don't know if this is a good decision to release Zazan right now. It might hurt sales for some people on Cloud, but hey, it's Gumi. I don't know what I'm saying, but yeah. As always, at the end of the video, if you enjoyed this unit analysis and review of him, yeah, please like and subscribe, and until next video, which I will be making 3 more of today, which is going to be very busy, peace out.